delivered these flowers to this rather bemused woman. Then I went into a meeting room and plugged a remote access device into the network and then used that to hack in afterwards. Got that massive buzz afterwards when I finished and left the building, like massive adrenaline high. It's like, okay, this is fun. This is really fun. Like you've got this horrible nerves beforehand and this massive elated feeling afterwards. So it's a real experience. But yeah, then it's like, okay, well, I've got a taste for this now.
Welcome to Now That's It, Stories of MSP Success, where we dive into the journeys of some of the trailblazers in our industry to find out how they used their passion for technology to help turn managed services into the thriving sector it is today.
Disguises, deepfakes, long lens cameras. It's not the next FX series with Rami Malek. It's the true life of Rob Shapland. After years inside one of the UK's earliest pen testing firms, disguised as a cleaner, a delivery driver, even a fake employee, Rob has gained unauthorized access to more than 200 companies, military bases, and government facilities. Today, Rob runs his own cybersecurity firm focused on social engineering and awareness training. I'm so excited to get into these stories and more. Welcome to the Now That's It podcast, Rob.
Thanks, Chris. It's great to be on.
And I really appreciate you being here. A little extra special. It's the end of an event. We're at an amazing event this week, Enable Empower. It might start to get a little loud in the background because it's going to be social hour in a few minutes. And so thanks for taking a few minutes away from networking with all the amazing MSPs in the UK and Europe.
Yeah, it's been a great event so far. So
Awesome.
Yeah, it's nice to have a little bit of quiet before the evening.
It's calm before the storm. That's right. All right, so let's rewind a little bit, Rob. You're in school. You make yourself an admin at the school's IT system. And what happened? What did that experience unlock in you?
Yeah, I think that was my first exposure to hacking as a thing. It was quite early days, and I was just messing around. I didn't really know you could do hacking. Hacked into school systems, left it all on like the admin screen of every single computer, and then kind of forgot about it, to be honest, because back then it's already quite a niche career, but then it was even more niche. There was hardly anyone doing it, and I didn't know it existed as a career. So it took me a few years before I found out you can actually do this as a job. And when I did find that was quite exciting.
So at the moment, your teachers, your parents, your friends, they're probably not looking at this as a talent that you have.
Probably not. It's probably more of a negative thing at that point. There's always a negative connotation or association with hacking, isn't there?
Yeah.
You're going to be a black hat. You're going to be going to prison, all that sort of stuff. But the fact that you can do it now as a job and help people, it's really cool.
It's awesome. But at the time, it's Rob's in trouble again.
Right? Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It's Rob's. I have to go to school and get told off by the teacher again for hacking and messing around.
I've gotten to know you pretty well in the last couple of days, and I just don't see that characteristic in you. But if that was your past, that was your past. All right?
Indeed. I mean, I never got in proper trouble.
Yeah.
I never went to jail or got the authorities banging on the door or anything like that.
So at university, you chose software testing, right? A fairly safe tech career. What drew you to that path?
To be honest, so I was always good with computers, right? And I was looking for a career that used that. And my dad was very much like, you are not going to finish university and do nothing for a few months. He's like circling jobs in a newspaper for me immediately. Yeah, this is early days before we had all the sort of online stuff. So he threw a newspaper at me and went, what about that one? What about software testing? I have no idea what that is. I'll have a look at it. It sounded boring, and it turned out to be just as boring as I thought it was going to be. Not to offend any software testers out there, but it wasn't for me. And I did that for 4 years in the end, different companies, and then found, when you're searching for a new job, and I just typed in testing online, and it came up with penetration testing, which is the sort of alter ego of ethical hacking. And as you do at that age, I had a good laugh at the job title, and looked into it, and I'm like, hang on, that's hacking. Mm-hmm. You can do that as a job. That's amazing. So I applied for it, and they came back to me and said, right, okay, you've not got any experience. Write me 500 words on SQL injection. I'm like, right, I've got to Google what SQL injection is to start with and find out what that is. Wrote an article about it, used that to get the interview, did the interview, and then got the job. And that was my first kind of exposure into properly doing hacking.
That's great. Why do you think that first job was painfully dull?
The software testing.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't It uses your brain a bit, but not as much
Yeah.
as hacking does. You're just checking stuff works.
Yeah.
So there's not like a lot of lateral thinking to it, whereas hacking is very much thinking outside the box, especially when you throw in the social engineering elements.
What did so you get the job at UK's sort of one of the first pen testing firms there, right? What did training look like?
I mean, training to start with was literally you're going to make tea and watch us do stuff. So the company was really small, like 3 or 4 people. And I was just learning, just shadowing, like old school, none of them nowadays where everyone expects to be thrown in and doing all the really exciting stuff right at the start. It was very much, okay, read this 400-page book on TCP IP and then watch us do an infrastructure test and then do that for 6 months and then start getting involved in the testing. And then from there, move into application testing, web apps. And then from there and there's more and more stuff. There's internal testing, there's mobile apps, all sorts of stuff. So there's lots on the technical side that you can do, and that I was doing at that stage.
Do you remember any of those like early assignments? Just what it was like, what was going through your mind? Like when did it sort of click that this might be a career for me?
Yeah, I think it's when you start to do fun stuff. Like when we got a TV shipped to us for -1 pence. So they paid us to send the TV because we just manipulated the price on this was like a major website as well, and you could just change the pricing on there. I did that a few times. Different companies got money paid into me and items sent, which was really fun. And then it was when I started going on site. So I would go to clients' offices and test their internal networks. And when you could take control of the TVs in the atrium of this huge company and just say like, hacked by Rob or whatever in the middle of that in front of hundreds of people. I was like, this is fun. Like that felt like being in a movie, taking control of things in a building.
It's fascinating, right? And like I think most of the MSP industry and the IT industry, they understand the idea of vulnerability, pen testing, right? But this was a different level. Like this was you were breaking in.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And there's a big disconnect between seeing a vulnerability on a screen
Yeah.
that Qualys or Nessus, whatever is reporting, and relating that to actually that can be used to do this. I think you can just see it as, oh, it's a red, I've got 500 reds or 10,000 reds or whatever. But it's actually some of those can just be exploited in one click and away you go. So being able to go into a network, find a vulnerability, then exploit it, then use that to access other areas of the network, move around laterally, and then download actual important information. It's fun to take it all the way like that.
That's cool. All right. We're going to dig more into that here in a minute, but there's probably listeners saying, this is some crazy stuff here. And I heard a rumor that you're a bit of an extreme sport guy, right? Sort of an ultra race guy. Tell us more about what Spartan races are all about.
Okay, yeah. So my outside of my hacking life, my other life is obstacle racing. So Tough Mudder, Spartan race, but there's also some more specific, very technical races that take place in Spain and all over Europe. And I got involved in that 7 or 8 years ago. Just went on a fun run like Tough Mudder, like a lot of people do. And then I realized there's a bit of a competitive scene to it. And I can't help myself getting involved in the competitive scene of pretty much everything that I've ever done. So when I realized I could do that, I started training a bit more, running a bit more, and eventually qualified for the UK national team. So doing that in June for the first time. So that's going to be really fun. That'll be out in Portugal, and then World Championships in Sweden in October. And it's just fun. It's like swinging around from monkey bars, jumping over things, picking things up and running with them. It's just, it's like
And you were
being a kid.
not ex-military.
No.
So
No.
this is what's fascinating about this is you've got this interesting brain. Obviously, there's a physical side of it. You're in great shape. You're looking at this for energy, exercise and competitiveness. But the obstacles that you're going through, they're pretty extreme, right? And so you've got to have it's a mind game as well, as much as it is a physical game.
Oh yeah, it is. When you're running between the obstacles and you're running as fast as you can. Like imagine you're doing a 10K race or whatever and you're going flat out. And then you get to something and now you've got to pick up a 50-kilogram ball and go with that. And then you've got to put that down. And then you've got to swing from these little attachments and nunchucks and things that are hanging from monkey bars and then drop off that and then get going again. It is hard. It's punishing. And you get into that mental place where it gets a bit dark for a while, and then you come out the other side and you go, no, actually, I enjoyed that. That was good.
There's something about you, that I've listened, as I listen to you tell stories, you've not come out and said this, but you have this personality where I can prove you wrong. Like I can do this, I can get in there. Do you agree with that? Do you have that sort of?
Yeah. I would much rather someone said to me, like, if I'm breaking into a building, don't think you can get in there.
Yeah.
Try your best. What I hate is when people say, oh, that'll be easy. because then it's like, oh, there's the expectation that you're going to get in. So on the off chance that you failed, it would feel really awful. But I much prefer the challenge of, you'll never get in here. You're like, oh, okay, give me enough time, give me enough budget to do it properly. I mean, yeah, if you give me 2 hours to do it, that's probably not going to work. But if you tell me I can have a few weeks, then yeah, let's see what we can do.
That's great, Rob. All right, let's talk a little bit about the social engineering niche. I think this is really, really interesting. I've heard you tell stories. So you started to develop this niche. What does you call it social engineering, right? So what does that mean? How does that resonate to you? Where did it come from? What happened?
Yeah, so to me, social engineering was always associated with physically breaking into a company's offices. Also, as a term, it encompasses more than that. It's really anything where you're influencing or manipulating people in some form, whether it be phishing or phone calls or whatever. But to me, it was always the physical side, and that's how I started. And my boss at the first company was the one that did it there, and he decided he'd had enough of it. He wanted to hand it over to someone. And he said to me, "All right, why don't you have a go?" And he set me a target of a client in London, and the task was to get in and get hold of the Wi-Fi password they used, and that was used amongst all the different offices. First one, so nervous, absolutely bricking it, to be honest. Like it was so scary. I must have walked past that office 10 times before I went in. And I had a fake badge that I'd taken from a social media post that the company had done. They put someone with their badge, and I was like, okay, make a copy of that. And then I had an iPad with some like Wi-Fi signal strength apps on it. And I thought, okay, I'll go in, pretend to be an IT employee, ask them if they've got any problems with their Wi-Fi, because everyone always has problems with Wi-Fi. And then maybe that can get me the password. So finally brought up the courage to walk into this building. Said I was there from IT. They said, okay, you need to sign in downstairs. So went down there. And said, have you got any problems with Wi-Fi? And they said, oh yeah, it's terrible. Especially down here, it doesn't work at all. I was like, okay, well, I need to log on if you got the password. He's like, oh yeah, here you go. Just gave me a little bit of paper with this 30-character password on it. So, well, that's really secure unless you give me that thing on a piece of paper. So typed it all in, logged in, happy days, I'm into the network. Now I can go to any one of their offices because they always use the same shared Wi-Fi network, and take anything I want, because now I'm authenticated to corporate resources and things as well. So got that massive buzz afterwards when I finished and left the building, like massive adrenaline highs. Like, okay, this is fun. This is really fun. Like you've got this horrible nerves beforehand and this massive elated feeling afterwards. So it's a real experience. But yeah, then it's like, okay, well, I've got a taste for this now. So I'll take it over.
So cool. So obviously, attacks have become more sophisticated. Essentially, users have, right? MFA has become a thing that people are saying you got to have. And AI has become this exciting new thing that companies are using to become more efficient. I heard you tell a story about AI and MFA. Do you mind sharing? Obviously, leave names out to keep the innocent.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So to give an example, so let's say I wanted to hack into an email account. So to get into someone's email, you need their email address, their password, and they're probably to get past their multi-factor authentication. So the company that I was targeting for this example, they wanted me to get into one of their senior leaders' email accounts. I didn't mind which one. I just said, just get into someone's senior's email account and see what you can see inside there. And so I thought, okay, email address. Often for senior people, you can find that online fairly easily, a bit of Googling, maybe on the website. If not, pretty much everyone's email address is available through LinkedIn. Like, although LinkedIn doesn't show me directly what your email address is, if I've got the name of the person that's working there and the company they work for, it's not going to take a genius to work out what their work email address is, right? So that's the first part, but that's obviously the easiest bit. Second part is the password. Now, for this company, how I got that was through a data breach. So I'm sure most people are aware, there's massive databases full of breached credentials out there that have already been stolen from other websites. And one of their senior leaders was in this breach database. He'd had his email address and password stolen 8 separate times from 8 completely unrelated websites. And he'd been using his work email address to register for everything, including all his personal websites. Now, in each of those 8 different examples, his password was the same. So I've kind of figured, well, if he's using it for 8 completely unrelated websites, it's probably fair to surmise that password is one he uses absolutely everywhere. A lot of people do that, reuse passwords in places. Not a lot of people reuse the same one absolutely everywhere, as this person seemed to be doing. But I thought, okay, I can probably guess that that's going to be the password he's going to be using for his email account as well. Now, there are other ways to get a password. Like one of the other ways I've used is simply to sit next to someone on a train and watch them type the password into their laptop, which is very simple. Like maybe you can't follow it in real time, but I've got a pair of glasses that I use to record stuff when I'm doing social engineering. You can look at the keyboard and then reverse the footage, slow it down, and work out what they've typed. So there's lots of different ways of getting a password. It doesn't necessarily involve brute forcing or guessing all the different combinations. So anyway, I thought that was probably the password he was using. But then I thought, okay, this is quite a well-defended company. They're almost certain to have MFA. But before I log in as this person and trigger any alerts on his phone, can I confirm yes or no whether they've got MFA in some way? So I went onto LinkedIn, searched for the company, and started looking at their IT employees. They had 10 or 20 IT employees in the company. Pressed on their profiles, and some people on LinkedIn will just list all the places they've worked. I was here 5 years, here 3 years, here 2 years. But some will break down within those job roles what they did. And one of their IT employees had listed every project he'd worked on since he started at the company. And one of those was implemented Microsoft Authenticator MFA. I was like, okay, great. So now I know the company's using Microsoft MFA. So I can probably guess it's going to be the system where a number comes up on the screen, and then that prompts a thing on their phone, and they have to type in that number and matches it. Now, how do you get around that MFA? Because that's the bit that's supposed to protect you, right? Okay, password is as well, but if you can get hold of someone's password, great. But you can't log in because of the MFA. It's the whole point of having MFA. So best way to get around it is social engineering, normally through a phone call. So perhaps I phone you up and I pretend to be from IT. I'm doing some maintenance on your account. I've logged in as you. I've got your password, so it must be IT. And I just need you to authenticate me through the MFA. So that's the rough idea of how I was going to do it. But I always get a bit carried away and I want to go to the next level and see how far I can take it. So what I decided to do was, can I clone the voice of one of their IT employees? It's probably far more than I needed, to be honest, because the chances of them actually recognizing the IT person's voice is fairly slim. But I thought, okay, it'd be fun to try, and maybe it's the thing that is the convincer. So best way to find a voice, YouTube normally. I mean, you could clone my voice easily. There's enough YouTube videos and stuff out there of me. So I started looking for all the different IT employees on YouTube to see if they were on there. And one of them had done a conference, a bit like we're at now, and he'd done an hour talk, and it was all recorded on YouTube, and it was really high quality. I was like, okay, that's perfect, because that's an hour recording. Now, for voice cloning through the AI systems, you don't need an hour. 2 minutes, roughly speaking, is enough to create a passable copy. It's not going to be perfect, but it's enough on a phone call that it will probably work. So I cloned his voice, and then with the software, you can do a couple of things. So you can either do what's called text-to-speech, where I type in exactly what I want to say, and it will read it out, which is great if you've only got one thing, because if they respond something different, you're suddenly typing, there's going to be a really awkward pause. The other thing you can do is you can hook it up to ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever AI system you want. Give it a prompt, just like you would in ChatGPT. You are an IT employee. You are trying to get this person to give you an MFA code or type in a number onto the screen, and it will do that. You have to engineer the prompt in a certain way. It doesn't like you trying to get passwords and things from it, but it will work. So I thought, okay, so I'll clone his voice, and then I'll get it to say something, and then if it goes off piste, I'll let the ChatGPT kind of try and get the password for me, effectively. The MFA code for me. So all the parts are in place, I think, anyway. So I logged in as this person. The password worked exactly. It was the one from the data breach, exactly how I hoped. So now it prompts on his phone an MFA prompt from Microsoft Authenticator. So now I phone him. Now his phone number's on the website, so that made it very easy to do that. Phoned him up, and then essentially played the voice recording saying, "Hi, it's Steve here from IT. We're just doing some maintenance on your account at the moment. You might have seen a Microsoft Authenticator prompt pop up on your phone. Would you mind just entering the number 23 for me, please?" And he went, "Oh, hi, Steve. Yeah, no problem. Actually, I've had a few problems with my laptop recently. So that's great. You're on the line. I'll do that for you now." So click pause, types in the number, and I'm in. So straight into the email. We end the phone call, and now I'm inside one of the most senior executives' email. Now, you imagine he'd been there for 15 years, never deleted an email in his life. So there's so much information within there. But also, one of the powerful things you could then do is send email as that person. So authorizing money transfers, for example, would be a great thing to do. So the simple bit of social engineering, voice cloning tool, it sounds, well, that's quite technical. It's not, honestly. It's about $5-6 a month for the voice cloning tool. It's so easy to use as well. Honestly, you just upload a voice recording. It creates the thing. You type out what you want to say, happy days, and it works. So I'm not saying it's incredibly difficult to do that. But that system works, and I've tried that against a few companies, and it's very successful.
So for anybody that's listening, Rob is actually here, by the way. I just want to validate that for everybody. This is not a clone, an AI clone of Rob. He's actually here. It sounds very sort of nefarious, very devious what you're doing, but companies are hiring you to do this, right? Like this is part of what you've been tasked with. And so just talk a little bit about how does an engagement like this start, right? Like we just told the story of this is what happened, but today, Rob, if you're doing this, if somebody's interested, what sort of size does a company typically get to, or what are the characteristics of why a business would hire you? And then probably most importantly, what are the outcomes? What do you do with this exercise?
Yeah, okay, no, great question. So for me, I like to work with clients that really care about their security. So some firms, they just want to say, security is a box I need to tick. Yes, I've done my training. Yes, I've done my pen testing. Yes, I've done my vulnerability scanning. And that's all they need to get their insurance or whatever. And that's the limit of what they want to do. But other firms actually care about it. It's like, well, how good is the training I'm doing? Is doing just some e-learning good enough, or could I do something better? And that's where I tend to step in, because I will do these engagements where I break into the email or break physically into the office, record it all, and then show it in training for those clients. And then that's a really powerful message. So rather than just doing a 10-minute video and doing a quiz or something like that, failing the quiz because they're doing something else at the same time, then doing it again and finally passing it. Instead, they're in a room with me. I'm scaring them. I'm showing them videos of me actually breaking into their office, of cloning their CFO's voice and asking for a money transfer and things. So what I want to do with that is enhance the company's security properly in a way that's memorable, but also helps them at home as well. So a lot of what I do talk about in training is to do with their home life as much as their work life. So I really like to work with clients that they don't have to be any particular size. Like generally speaking, they tend to be medium-sized businesses, maybe a bit larger, just because otherwise they're so focused on the really basics of cybersecurity, they're not really thinking about employing someone to go and break into their building or other bits and pieces. But the interesting thing about that story I told you with the MFA bypass is that didn't touch any security systems, if you think about it. So you could have your EDR in place, your MDR, your email quarantining, everything. All of it got bypassed by that. Never touched anything. The only thing it touched, the only layer it touched is the human layer, is the person at the end of that call who gave me the code or typed in the code for me. Now, if he'd been trained correctly and had been engaged in the training and listening, he'd have gone, well, there's no reason I ever should be typing in a number that I haven't logged in myself, or I didn't want to log in myself. And I didn't initiate that call. That came from someone else. I don't know who that person is. Just because it's got a random mobile number, I don't know that's one of my IT people. It could be anyone. So by doing the training in such a way that it's engaging and interesting, you actually make that human layer really, really effective. And most hacks now come through that human layer. So why would you just have the easiest option with your training? Why would you not go to that next level?
Wow. It's very scary as a business owner, as a human, right? The fact that, I have a podcast. I have hours and hours and hours of my voice out there. You just gave a couple of sort of pieces of advice there, but what's something that maybe businesses can just do better to protect themselves from some of these social engineering type attacks?
Yeah, I mean, so the voice cloning stuff is interesting because once your voice is out there, it's available to be cloned. You're not going to strip yourself off the internet and all your podcasts, remove them all just on the off chance that you get cloned, okay, right? So that's not going to happen. So you have to educate people on what how to defend against it. And the main thing is, what are you being asked to do? So if you've received a phone call from someone, what is that person asking you to do? Now you know the voice clone technology is out there, and a lot of people don't know that. So that's an education piece and a training piece. If they phone you, what are they asking you to do? So are they asking you to do something a bit unusual? Share a password, authenticate through MFA, do a money transfer, and they give you the bank account details on the call, that sort of stuff. And have you initiated any part of this yourself? Or is it all inbound to you? Is it all calls, emails, messages, whatever, that's come to you? And that's the point where you're being asked to do something weird. The way that you can defend against it is to stop the call, the video, whatever it is, because it could be deepfake video as well, and initiate back on a number or an address or whatever that you know is definitely that person, because that kills the attack dead, because now you know you're speaking to the right person. You can check, well, did you just phone me and ask me for my password? And they'll go, well, no, because we shouldn't ever do that. And then you've stopped it. So it's little bits like that. It's thinking about the underlying reason and being the one in charge of the situation that tends to be the thing that defends companies.
That's great. Great advice, Rob. I appreciate you sharing that with the listeners. You spent over a decade at a company that felt like home, and now you're starting your own thing. What changed?
Yeah, I mean, so when I started, we were 4 people. It was a proper family-run business. And I know that sounds, oh yeah, it's not really a family, is it? It's just work. But it genuinely was, because we got on so well. We're all still friends now. And we built that up to, not big, 20, 25 people. And then the owner sold the business to a slightly larger business. And that was okay. It was good. And then it got bought by an even larger business. And, things change, right? There's nothing wrong with that larger business. It's just, it wasn't really a fit between the two of us. So I'd been thinking in the back of my mind for ages, like, I should set up on my own. And people had always been telling me that, like, we don't understand why you work for someone else. Like, you come in and do the training, you do the social engineering, it's all you there. We don't care who you work for. So, let us know if you ever set up on your own. So I thought, well, I've got some friendly clients waiting in the wings potentially. And, that's what you want when you start a business. I couldn't be doing cold calls and LinkedIn messages and all that sort of stuff. So when the kind of time was right, I thought, okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's set up and let's go for it, and let's see how it goes. And yeah, it's hard work. Anyone that's on this, listening to this, that's owned a business or any point or owns one now knows what it's like. And it's very personal. You take everything personally, whether it's a job well done or a job rejected or whatever. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. It's nice to be in control and do everything the way that I think it should be done.
That's great. Talk a little bit about how you anticipate the future of sort of social engineering attacks, and I mean, how quickly do you think things are going to evolve? What do you expect?
I think the voice clone and the deepfake video is going to be the big thing. I mean, it already is big, but it's going to be huge over the next couple of years. It's going to be to the point where anything inbound to you, you're basically not going to be able to trust, because you just don't know who you're talking to anymore. Yeah, it's already a case of that at a basic level, phone numbers can be spoofed, right? So your bank phones you. You don't know it's your bank, but the vast majority of the public don't know that. They trust the fact that it says their bank's name on the screen. They answer the phone expecting it to be the bank, and now someone defrauds them of money. Combine that with a clone of a voice and a video of someone, it becomes incredibly difficult. And the technology is advancing so fast. Now you can create a deepfake video real time over Microsoft Teams using a single image of someone's face. And it's pretty good, to be honest. It's not those days of needing thousands of images and stills from videos and all sorts of stuff. You now can do it with a single image. So, if your image is out there, which almost everyone's is, even from social media or on the company website, I can now create a clone of that, call you, video call you, whatever I'm going to do, and potentially trick you into doing something. And the rate that technology is advancing is going to mean that in a couple of years, it's going to be so hard to spot. So that's what I foresee being the big problem. And again, that is going to come down to training on little techniques of how you defend against that. Little silly things like, if you're on a video call with someone you're not quite sure if it's them, ask them to pass their hand in front of their face, because it breaks the mask that the deepfake video uses. Stuff like that you would never know unless you played around with it yourself. Right. It's going to take that sort of level of training to help people protect against it, I think.
Scary. And can you imagine pairing that with, we're in an age where, our devices know, like, they see what we're searching for. They see what we're looking for out on the Amazon or whatever. And then someone calls you and says, hey, I got a deal on this. And you're like, oh, I was just looking at that. I mean, it's that knowledge that the hackers, the bad guys have about you. You built that trust, and what's going on. Scary
yeah,
stuff.
Scary. And kind of related to that we're going to move more into biometrics, right, as a system to authenticate us, because passwords are a bit out of date now. I'm just waiting for the big first biometric hack where someone steals all the fingerprints or iris scans. And I'm so worried about that, because you can't change that stuff. At least with a password, you can change it, right? If you take one of my iris scans, that's it. You can authenticate to everything, and I can't change my eyes. So I think that's another future thing to worry about.
Very good. So you've spoken to hundreds of companies, educated them on risk. You've spoken at tons of conferences. What's something that still surprises you today that you hear from companies?
To be honest, it's that they still get the very basics wrong. You still get companies that don't have MFA everywhere. You still get people clicking on stuff, and you look at it and you go, like I know to most people IT isn't their thing, right? When you work in security or IT in general, you can look at things and go, how does anyone ever fall for that? But most people, it's not their job. They don't know the difference between a dash and a dot in an email address, and why would they? But some of them are really obvious, and you think, oh God, the whole company was hacked because someone got an email from the CEO and it was just some random Gmail address that had nothing to do with the company. So I think it's that still surprises me, that as a criminal, I talk about sophisticated methods, voice cloning, all that sort of stuff. Honestly, most of the time you don't need any of that stuff. I probably could have just phoned up and said, "Hi, it's Bob from IT. Can I have your password?" And you might have got it. So it's that. It's simple. That's the thing. I think it's the simple techniques that normally work. And most companies that are hacked, it is those simple things, a patch that they didn't bother to apply because they're on a 4-week patching cycle for some unknown reason, or they just don't want to patch that system that's 10 years out of date, or they can't patch it. And it's just simple things. And that always surprises me.
So my last question, I like to ask this to every one of my guests. We call this the Now That's It podcast. Rob, when did you know Now That's It?
Oh, I think it was one of the first building intrusions I did. When I got in, I got in dressed as a flower delivery man. So I came in with a bunch of flowers, and I'd picked someone to give them to, just randomly off of LinkedIn. I'd picked this woman to give them to, and I went into the building and said, "Oh, I want to deliver these by hand. Is that okay?" And I delivered these flowers to this rather bemused woman, who took them, and then I went off to use the toilet. I say that in inverted commas, because then I went into a meeting room and plugged a remote access device into the network, and then used that to hack in afterwards. And I thought, this is cool. It's really exciting. I left the building, and I was actually coming back the next day to do an internal pen test. So I'm allowed in the building. They know I'm there now. The social engineering part's done. And I came in, and she was. I thought she was happy to start with about the flowers. Turns out she wasn't. She'd actually broken up with someone not very long ago. Thought the flowers were like a reconciliation thing. So I felt quite awful after that. But I mean, that sounds awful now. I'm saying that's when I like social engineering, doesn't it? When I upset someone. That's not really it. But it's the thrill of all the different things that you can try and that you can make work. You can get delivered inside a very large Amazon parcel, which I've done. It's just really fun stuff. And each time you get in, it's more and more fun. And from there, it just snowballed. And I thought, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is fun. I'm not waking up on a Monday morning going, oh, I've got a week of work. I'm waking up Monday morning going, what fun am I having this week? This is so different to the first couple of jobs I had. So, yeah, it's great.
So cool, Rob. I every one of our guests on Now That's It are amazing guests, have interesting lives, but you have one of the most unique ones, and most fun. Scary, but fun. I really appreciate you being part of this. For those listening that want to get a hold of you, what's the easiest way for them to come?
It's probably find me on LinkedIn. So Rob Shapland on LinkedIn. My company's called Psionic, so you can drop me an email, but it's quite a long email address. So probably easier just to find me on LinkedIn, and then we can hook up from there.
That's great. And we'll make sure we get your URL and LinkedIn details in the pod as well. Thank you so much, Rob. Really been a pleasure to get to know you, hear you tell your stories. You're a great storyteller. And I think you do something really great for companies, help them figure out what's broken and how to prepare for risk. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.